Well, looks like my 6 reasons to skip Blazor video really hit a nerve. Some viewers left some spicy comments. But did you know I actually work with Blazor on the daily? It's how I put the proverbial bread on the table. When I joined the team I'm on right now, I was actually looking to work in Blazor. And that's because Blazor is awesome. Does it have flaws? Hell yes, it does. But it does many things really, really well. And recently, within the last month actually, the dotnet team announced a vast array of improvements which aim to fix Blazor's flaws. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. All the good things about Blazor. Clear the air and learn something in the process. So let's go. See, one of Blazor's biggest advantages is that it enables full-stack development using only C# and .NET. With Blazor, you can write client-side in HTML and CSS and server-side logic in C#, reducing context switching and keeping everything within the familiar .NET ecosystem. Staying within a single ecosystem means that your project is by default less complex because you're only using one framework, not two. You can share code like business logic, models, and even validation between front-end and back-end. Development is faster because, assuming your software engineers know C#, they don't need to learn an entirely new front-end stack. Now, the biggest selling point here is that using a single technology stack reduces cognitive load, and simpler is better. If you're using a meta framework like Next or Nuxt, you already know what I'm talking about. Blazor and ASP.NET Core are essentially that, but without all the JavaScript drama. All right, you may already know this, but it warrants repeating for the sake of context. Blazor is built on top of ASP.NET Core, so anything you could use in ASP.NET Core, you can use in Blazor. This means that you can take advantage of existing .NET APIs like configuration, authentication, dependency injection, data annotations, EF core, and even testing if that's something you're into. There are some limits on what you can use in the WebAssembly flavor of Blazor, but if you're using .NET 8 and the interactive auto render mode, you should be able to use most of the above. Plus, any packages you used in your API or MVC projects like Fluent Validation, SEP, or Mass Transit, you can use those here too. And on top of that, Blazor also has its own ecosystem of components and extensions. Ah yes, components. Let's talk about those. So this may be a bit of a paradigm shift for Razor or MVC developers, but anybody with a modicum of experience using modern JavaScript frameworks will know that components are the way to go. In Blazor, everything is a component. Buttons are components, tables are components, entire pages are components. Components inside components inside components. The cool thing about components is that you write them once and reuse them in the same page, across different pages, hell, even different projects. Components also encapsulate logic, state, and style. You make that button pretty once, and it's pretty forever. They're also interactive, just like you would add a click handler to a button. You can do the same with custom components by invoking event callbacks. You can pass parameters into components, including cascading parameters. That is, an ancestor parameter can pass values down several generations to its child components. Lastly, and I want to underscore this as a personal favorite of mine, components make your applications more maintainable and scalable. Since you break down the application into smaller components, it makes it easier to build a larger part out of these smaller components. It also makes it easier to keep them up to date and debug them should problems arise. Now, this is the power of components, and this is why Blazor trounces Razor MVC or web forms if you're still using those. All right. Imagine your boss comes to you and says he wants to ship on Windows, Mac, mobile, and web. If you're a JavaScript developer, you would be like, all right, well, I got Electron, and React Native or Capacitor. In .NET, this is where .NET MAUI comes in. But instead of two separate platforms, one for desktop and one for mobile, you have just the one. And Blazor fits right in because you can build those Blazor components we just talked about and plug them right into .NET MAUI and then build for macOS or WinUI or iOS or Android. Now, does it work flawlessly out of the box? No, it does not. Is it easy to learn, intuitive? I've seen better. But once you can get over that initial ramp up, it's super solid. And you just saved tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in developer time. All right. This may blow your mind, but you can actually bring a Blazor component into a WPF or a WinForms application. Now, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. Oh, and one more thing. Some of you savvy developers might be thinking, well, why don't I just use PWAs, Progressive Web Apps? If I need a camera, file system, or Bluetooth access, PWAs can do that too. And you're not wrong, but PWAs also require service workers and thus JavaScript. Also, Apple is really bad at web, so PWAs are not guaranteed to run on all iOS devices. Yeah, it's 2025 and that's still a thing. Anyway, Blazor Hybrid, it's great, but you know what else is great? Debugging. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever tried to debug a Next.js or a Nuxt application? Yeah? How did that go? Well, with Blazor, debugging is chef's kiss, first class, bar none. Microsoft is known for having a pretty stellar debugging experience across .NET, and Blazor is no exception. Since components are just classes, any code in the code blocks or even code inside HTML will trip breakpoints. It makes JavaScript debugging look bad. I mean, it is bad, comparatively. C# is an amazing language. It really is. If you're using .NET, you're probably using C#. I mean, if you're using Razor, you're definitely using C# because it doesn't support anything else. It's strongly typed, modern, intuitive, and has a massive amount of support both from Microsoft and the community. C# is constantly evolving too, unlike its closest competitor, Java. Also, if you're looking to work in finance, biotech, or government, although that seems to be on the downturn lately, C# is an excellent language to pick up. All right, I mentioned this just a moment ago, but I want to reiterate here real quick. Unlike web forms, unlike MVC, and unlike Razor pages, Blazor is actively developed. When was the last time anybody said anything during a .NET Conf or an NDC or build about MVC? I don't even know, and I watch a lot of that stuff. In .NET 8, Blazor had some major performance and usability improvements, and .NET 9 improved even on that.
But wait, there's more!
In .NET 10, there are plans to go even further. And recently, they outlined improvements to both authentication, Razor syntax, and, get this, hot reload. Yes, they're looking at hot reload.
It's true.
All right, last but not least, I wanted to mention that Blazor has some pretty good component libraries. Free libraries like Radzen, MudBlazor, Bootstrap Blazor, Fluent UI make development easier and faster. There are also paid options with support plans if that's your thing, but the licensing on those can be pretty bad. Like you build something for a customer using a paid component library, and now that customer has to pay a license subscription fee. But the free ones, they're great, and you can even bring your own. Say you have some web component JavaScript library, you can just wrap that in Blazor and you're good to go. And there you have it, 8 reasons why Blazor is awesome. Now, if you haven't seen my other video about areas of improvement for Blazor. Please check that out too. And if you like this one, you know what to do. For now, adios, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.